This is that's just something I've been working on for a while. The Vortex math kind of had me think about this, so I went ahead with it. The Vortex math, it uses the 1 through 9 whole numbers only. So it's dispersing and it's not using the 0 at all. The 0, from what I've seen in numbers, is very important, and it brings balance to the numbers. And I built this just to see what it would do. Let's say that the Vortex also uses it just uses a circle and works its way around the circle. But from what I've seen, you need the square and the circle. With what I've been doing on especially the pick 3 and the pick 4 lottery. I'm not sure what this would be good for on the lottery as of yet. It's just something I've been working on to see what it would do, see what my brain picked out of it. So I took a 10 by 10 square, using all 10 of the whole numbers, 0 through 9. And then that would be 0 through 9, 0 through 9, and 0 through 9. So that gives you a 10 by 10 square to start with. Okay, now what I've done was I went 0 through 9. I got to the corner, went to 10, switched across. That brings me up to 21. Down brings me to 32. On across brings me to 43. And then it starts over again on 44, works its way up to 56, and then comes across to 69, down to 82, and then it just goes around and around and around until you get, I actually done this all the way to 10,000. 10,000 is the only number other than 9,800 that if you branch off of the 4 corners, that actually comes in line with the corner. So this upper left hand corner give me 10,000. There's nothing here, and then 9,800 on the diagonal corner on the opposite side. Okay, now I broke this down into, I'll explain all that later, but let's split the square in half and take all the numbers on this side, all the numbers on this side, and then split the square and circle horizontally, and you have numbers down here and numbers up here. Okay, you take the corners and you branch out with a straight line going up, and then that separates this section from this section from this section. It separates you into other sections. Okay, I've highlighted all these orange yellowish colored ones are just my separator line going up. You'll have one for each corner. Then you have these lime green ones that will be all your 10s, like 10, 20, 30, any number that ends in those numbers. And then you have your green squares, or your green cells, that are hundreds, and then your dark green cells that are thousands. So each one are separated, and you can see that you've got a little bit of a pattern going all the way across. And it doesn't matter if you highlighted all the numbers that ended in 5, then you would still have the same type of pattern. but it's just spread out to a different spot. Okay, now this, keep in mind, we are circling clockwise with our digits until we get all the way up to 9,999. I stopped it at there. And you can see we have another pattern on each one of these that go out diagonal, where you have the hundredths and the tenths here, and you have the tenths here, and you don't really see a pattern on these. You can see the 172 and the 712, and then over here you have a different pattern where the tenths kind of well, you can see it there. It goes all the way up. Same thing down here. You have two, you skip one, then you're back to one yellow, you skip two, and then you've got a green, then you've got one, a green, and two, and it does that all the way down. And then over here you have a different pattern coming off of the corner of 0. So you have there's no tenths all the way down as far as the corner goes, but you do have every 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll have a hundredth every fourth until you get down to the 8,000 here, and then you start over again. It goes all the way down. And if you kept going with this same pattern will continue as far as you go. Same thing with all four corners. Your horizontal line, you have 3 separating, then you have 5, then you have 3, and then you have 5. So that's 3 and 5, that's 8 all the way across on the horizontal that way. And then here you have 4, 1, and then you have 7, then you have 1, and then you have 7, 1 and 7, and it continues as far as you go that way. And then going up you have 3, skip 1, a non-tenth, and then you have 7, and then 1. And this mouse sucks. And then you have 7, and then 1 again. That pattern repeats as far as you want to go. Same thing down here. You have 4, and then 3, and then you have 5, 3, and then 5, and that repeats. Okay, so you have 3 and 5 here. That's 8. You have 1 and 7 here. That's 8. You have 3. And you have 1 and 7. That's 8. And then over here you have the 3 and the 5. And that's 8. So this horizontal line and this vertical line, you have 3 and then 5, which is 8, and you have 3 and 5, which is 8. This vertical line, this horizontal line, you have 1 and then 7, which is 8, and you have 1 and 7, which is 8. The 8 I will get into later. I took this sheet, which just takes all these numbers and sums them up to whatever they go to. So we have 9999, that's 36. There's 36. 9998 is 35. And that will sum them all up one time. Come over to here, and it just sums them up again. And I do this until I get a whole number for each one. And that's where this sheet starts. And if you look, you can see the 1, 2, 3 through 9 going up, and then the 1, 2, 3 through 9 going to the right. It'll be the same thing backwards. You can see your little 3-dot patterns. I carried all the formatting over so I don't lose what I'm seeing off the main sheet. I just want it simplified so I can see the whole numbers as they are. Okay, now on this one, I talked about the patterns going up through here. There's patterns all over this, and I guess that's just the way numbers work. But you have 1, 2, 2, and 1. Then you skip to 8, 5, 1. The 5 reverses and the 8 reverses, and then you go back to the 1, 2, 2, 1, and then it starts over again, and it does that as far as you want to go. So this would work out infinitely. The more numbers you add to it, the longer this pattern is going to go. This one you have 3, 6, and 8, and then 9, and then you have that reversed. There's the 9 for the 9, the 8 for the 8, the 6 for the 6, and the 3 for the 3, and then that repeats. And then you have these here that are the tenths summed up. 1, 8, 7, 7. Scroll on over and back up some. Here's the 1, 8, 7, 7 again, except it's reversed. Same thing with the 9, 2, 5, 9. There's the 9 for the 9. The 2 and the 5 are swapped here for the 5 and the 2, and then the 9 again. Then you have the 1, 7, 5, 4. Which is right here. It's actually the very next one, and those are reversed. So you have that pattern that goes all the way as far as you want to take it infinitely. Down here you have 5, 1, and 5, 8, 1, 2, 2, 1, 5, 8, 1, 5, 8, 1, 2, 2, 1, which is this pattern going up diagonally. So this pattern just repeats all the way up through diagonally from left to right. Down here you have another pattern, 7, 5, 2, 7, 2, 5, 7, then you have 8, 8, and then the pattern just starts going again. And if you look at these are the sums of the hundredths from the main sheet, which is 3, 8, 6, 6, 8, 3, 9, 8, and 9. So it's only 3, 6, 8, and 9 that goes up through this way diagonally. That forming the pattern that is attached to the break here, I call it. Okay. Now the weird thing about this is, let's say we know that our numbers are going clockwise. They're working their way up and around clockwise. You can start this at anywhere, any corner you want to. It makes no difference. You could do it backwards if you want to. You're still going to get the same results. It's going to be this section would move over to here, this section would move down here, or if you done it backwards, it's going to lay it out the same way but backwards. Okay, but we are moving clockwise, so we're going around the square in a circular motion until we get all the way up to the 99, 99. But if you take all the numbers and sum them up until you get one whole number for each one, that's what this page is. And each number is highlighted. You have your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, and it'll be the same color for each number all the way through. And this would be the start of it, so you don't really see anything. but keep in mind we're going around clockwise. Okay, let me scroll this down and you can see it better. Okay, there's 40%. Okay, we are working clockwise on our numbers, but if you look, these are forming a pattern, each one that's going counterclockwise. It changes here, you can see the difference in the pattern, and then it starts going down. For each one, it gets down here and then it starts going to the right, and then it starts working its way up. Okay, so our numbers are going clockwise. We have like a vortex that's working backwards according to the numbers. That would give it like a positive and a negative pull. Now if you look real close, you can see it better down here. We can see that these are like an arrow pointing towards the right and working counterclockwise. But if you look right here, you have like a vortex that's pulling back this way. So our numbers are going clockwise. We have the big waves that are pulling counterclockwise, but we have a smaller pattern that's kind of a V shape in between each one that are pulling back clockwise. So this thing is turning clockwise, turning counterclockwise, and turning and pulling clockwise, all in the same motion with the numbers. Why, I don't know. Again, I guess that's just the way numbers work. But that is exactly the numbers summed up and highlighted to where it forms this pattern. Maybe that's just the way my eyes are seeing it, but it sure, that's what it looks like to me. Okay, let's take this back up to, there's 100%. So you can still see that that's 0 through 9, and then because there's no 0 on when you're doing addition, you're switching back to 1, which would be 10. 1 plus 0 is 1, and then 11. 1 plus 1 is 2, and then it just goes on around, and you can still see that we're going up this way. We're coming this way, and then it starts going up, pattern going up, and then you can see through here that it's kind of pulling back this way, kind of like it's almost as if it's pulling and pushing against itself to, I don't know. I'm kind of looking at it like, say this would be the Earth spinning, and then the lines would be time going through, spinning around. So that's my ideas with it. Which brings us to this, and I've added lines that just go up diagonally. On this one is this is the main sheet, the starting sheet where all this comes from, and all our lines are going up diagonal, so we have all directions covered. Okay, now my thinking is, let's say that here's our starting point and we're circling around. Let's say that we get to this point and let's say we're lagging a little. Okay, that pulls this line back, but it also spreads this line apart. So whatever action I do to this line, it changes this one also. If I speed this one up, say whatever's going on, that it's getting faster on this side, it's pulling this one in to make this one slower. So if whatever action this one has an equal and opposite reaction. So let's say that I go to here, that one I've sped up, and it pulled that one apart. So if that's the case, would this line decrease to have the opposite reaction of this one, and put a warp on this line? And if that's the case, would this one speed up to transfer the difference that this one had? So if this works positive and negative all the way around, and each action has an equal and opposite reaction, then we'd have to switch for each one. Okay, so if that one sped up, then I would go to the next one, which would be here, and I would have to pull that one back. For this one, I would have to go to the next line and speed it up. And that makes it to where whatever happens in whatever you're counting, that it looks kind of it looks random, but it's one movement forces another movement. This movement forces another movement, and it just keeps spinning around and around and around. So if something's lagging, something else has to pick it up. If something's sped up, then something's got to pull it back a little bit to keep it in time. So if that is some way that the lottery works, I don't know, because it happens. I mean, the draw times are all the same, but, or anything else. I mean, they all lottery draws, they happen at the same time, but it's just a different day. Okay, now I talked about earlier with the 8. If you take a 10 by 10 cube, and let's say we go, this will be 0, this line will be the first line, the second line, the third line, the fourth, and the fifth, and so on. Now if I go from this 0 to the 5 here, from this 0 to the 5 here, and this 0 to the 5, it's just a straight line down, so we don't need that one. Now let's say I go from this 0 to this one, from this corner to this corner it's the same, and this corner to this corner it's the same. But if I go from each 0 all the way across to each 0, and each corner to corner, which would be the zeros, and then I go from the centers, which is 5, which is what I believe is the, I believe every whole number has like a polar opposite as far as numbers go. So I think 0 and 5 are the positive and the negative opposites. 1 and 2, 3 and 8, 4 and 7, and 6 or 9 are each one's opposite. So if I go on this from 0 to 5, back to 0, and I go from 0 to each corner that it can line up to with a line, and from 0 to each 5, and the same thing for 5, it gives me this pattern here. Okay, now if I break that down to where I'm on the same trajectory with my lines, like from this 5 to this 0, and I keep it inside the circle, that gives me this pattern. And if you don't know what this is it's called the chaos pattern. Okay, you have 8 points on this. You have 8 points that are going out, so that would be like north, south, east, and west. But you also have 8 points that are coming in. So that would be like a push going out and a pull coming in if this thing was spinning. You also have 8 points inside here. You have 8 points inside here and 8 sides in here. There's 8 triangles. That are in here. That would, I guess, if you could fold this thing in half any way you go and it's going to match up. But the 8 points around it and over, let's see, where was it? Here. With our patterns, having 1 and then 7's 8, 1 and 7's 8, going up. For some reason, the 8 in this, which is the would be the numeric opposite of 3, is it just does something. I'm not sure what. But with this being the chaos star, and it taking care of all points, north, south, east, and west, and then you have northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. It covers all points, all directions. And that's actually what this would be in the center. But you always have 3, 8, and 15, which is 6. Okay, another thing I've noticed with this is, let's say that we take 58, we take a straight line up, and we have 58 here and 11. Okay, this 58 is 47 more than this 11. This 113 is 55 more than 58. Now if we go the highest number up and subtract the next number that's in the line down below, it doesn't matter which direction we go. If we come from this way back, if we come from up to down, if we come from left to right, it does not matter how you do it. This is what you're going to see. If you take 9682 and subtract 9291 from it, it's going to be 391. Any way you go. Okay, if you take let's say 9302 and subtract 8919, it's 383. And it does not matter which direction you go from. These are your results whenever you're tracting or working, like say in a past tense. Each one of these numbers, there's 8 difference all the way around. Any way you go, it's a difference of 8. Okay, let's say that we go diagonal. Okay, we have 21 here and 69 here. Okay, we're growing and we have different numbers that's going all the way up. You don't see any uniformity whatsoever except for the highlighted patterns. Now, our numbers are changing and it looks like chaos. It looks like a jumbled up pile of numbers. But let's say we go in diagonal, which would be, say, look at this like a fan. That was a blade of a fan. That was a blade of a fan. This one and this one. And this is spinning around. Okay, we have 21 here and 69 here. Okay, 69 minus 21 is 48. The difference between 125 and 69, 125 minus 69 is 56. So if I take the 69 and the 21, actually let me do this one because it's just easier to show. Let's say the 0 and the 44. Okay, that's a difference of 44 exactly. Okay, we have 96, which is next in line. 96 subtract 44 is 52. Okay, so with 96 and let's say we add the 52 and 96 together, that gives us 148. Okay, our next number is 156. So we have 96, the difference between 44 and 96, which is 52, that gives us 148. We can add 8 to that, and it will give you 156. You take the difference between 96 and 156, add that to 156 plus 8, it'll give you 224. The difference between 156 and 224 plus 8 will give you 300. And that will work. It does not change whatsoever on any line diagonal that you go around this. It's the same. Why it does that, I don't know. But I know you can add, you take the difference between the previous numbers, add that to this number, and then add 8 to it to give you next number. You take the difference between these two numbers, which is 46. You take 46 and 46 and add it together, add 8 to it, it'll give you 100. Same thing with 162. You start up here at 5 and go to 51. Add the difference between 51 and 5, which is 46, and add 8 to it to give you 105. If you go up here, it's going to do the same thing. You go all the way to 9,999, it's going to do the same thing. So if you take the difference between 9601 and 9211, add that to 9601, that'll give you 9,991, add 8 to it, and then you've got your 9,999. So 8 has something big to do with this. There are 8 points here, 8 points all the way around this thing. But I thought that right there was that was really odd, the way that we're counting this way and then it sucks it back this way, and then we still have the little bit of a pull that comes back to pull it back around. It's like it spins and then pulls back and spins again, and that creates some kind of a vortex. But you can see there's no, it looks like a jumbled up mess. If you just look at it, it does look chaotic. But it also, when broke down, can give you a uniform pattern. And in this chaos, it's kind of like it just takes the chaos out of it. But this could be something, could be used for something. I don't know. I don't know about lottery, unless it would be something like we start with 1 and we'd have to find out which the next level would be. I don't know. I'll have to do a lot more thinking on that. And then again, it may do nothing. But that's just my thoughts on the vortex math and why the 8 and why the symbol of chaos being 8, and then the difference of 8 on all this, all the different variants of 8 that shows up on this. But that's all. That's not all I've got on this for now, but that's all I'm putting on this one.